Hi everyone. Well, I got a little close there, didn't I? Hi everyone. How are you doing today? Hi Cammie. Hi Christine. Hope everybody's doing well today. Get your iron ready. We'll be pressing. And hopefully you've downloaded your circle. The link for it is on Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook post for yesterday morning, I believe it was. And you're just cutting out this circle. So I put in there 2 or 3 places, don't cut out your fabric, because we're going to sew on that line. So if you cut your fabric, go get some more. Here's what we're making. 2 pieces of fabric and some batting. You notice mine are all different sizes because it's just some scraps I had. So here we are. Here's our little basket, little clip basket. It'll hold a lot more, but that's all I had on my my little pin cushion. So I got to put some back on my pin cushion and get some more out. I got a can of them. Hey Lynn, how's it going? Regular sewing thread today. Microtex needle, 7010. Hi, Princess. And let's see, what do we got? Couple minutes to go. So who's sewing today? Oh, you all come in as different color little spots, little circles. So is anybody, Cammy, you're usually sewing along. Are you sewing along today? Excuse me. I know, coughing at the beginning of the show. Coughing at the beginning of class. I even got my hot tea with honey. Oh, Persis, good for you. Way to go, Persis. I'll be anxious. Don't forget, after class, to go ahead and post your pictures to the post yesterday that has this picture. I think it was about yesterday morning, I think it was. Because everybody loves to see all the different fabrics we use. So post your picture, make somebody happy. Cammy says, I am patch the fabric. Okay. Cammy, you been in the wine already? I have to translate that. Let me just do a camera check. Okay, we're good to go. Good to go. Okay, so we got, I guess we can start. It's 1:30. I was going to say 1:30:01. It's 1:31. Okay, it's Miss Loreen silliness today. Without meaning to, I'm sorry. Okay, so here we go. Good afternoon, everyone, for whoever's just joining in, and for those that were already joined in. Here's our little project. And actually, it's really reversible, but it becomes more like a bowl this way. But it's finished either way. And it probably would, if you pressed it, gave it a good press, it would probably square up, because that's what I do when I'm done making these. I press them, and I'll show you what I do. We even did a little quilting in there. I even have a little tiny elastic. And I'll tell you a story while everybody's getting ready. Make sure your iron's on. 7010 Microtex needle. Or I guess if you have an 80 top stitch, 8012 top stitch, you could use that. But the story with this little, now I got to sneeze. The story with this little elastic, excuse me, is I used to put these around my bobbins to hold the thread. and I was sewing along, and I ran out of thread in my bobbin. Everything was going fine. And I took the bobbin out, and it still had the little elastic around it. But that old baby lock just kept right on stitching just fine without elastic on it. Kind of made me laugh, as many things I do make me laugh. So this is like, here's your little set. I had another one. Here's your little set, so you can have your little fabric markers or whatever you want in there, and your little clips. Okay, so we are going to need a fabric marker right away. And actually, because we're sewing on the line, you could use most anything. Not an ink pen, please, if you can help it. But any of your fabric marking pens, whether it's wash away, air erase, heat erase, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So on the bottom, we have our batting. And this is going to, I can't decide. I'll have to decide after. I thought that this was going to be my top because it has scissors on it, but I don't know. So batting, first fabric right side up, second fabric right side down, so right sides are together. Let me push this back a little ways. Okay, and you notice my fabrics are all different sizes. I'm not going to cut them up and make them pretty. There's no point to that. And this is a circle, so it really doesn't matter how I line up my directional. It's a circle. Oh, Cammie patched her fabric to get the size. Good for you. I do that a lot of times with my batting, and I need to remember sometime to show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to put my circle down, and I'm just going to go around the edge. And it actually would probably work better, your tracing, if you didn't have the batting underneath. So if you're having trouble with your pen, just take the batting out, because we just need to trace. Well, I could have done a better tracing job. We just need to trace on top of the fabric where we're going to sew. So let me put that over there. So we got our circle. All right. So, oh, I'm sorry, Cammie, no wine yet. The day is young, Cammie. Just for the record, I don't drink wine, so don't you think you're sitting here sipping away. So there's our circle. And the reason we don't cut is because we're going to use that for our stitch line. And we don't want to trim this away yet, because it makes it harder to sew the circle when like you're barely hanging on to the edge of the fabric. So it doesn't matter how big the fabric is. So say you were going to make 4 of these and you want to make the most of your fabric, then take your big piece of fabric. It's a little cumbersome. Put your layers together and just move your template around, and then sew the first one, cut, sew the next one, so forth, so on. If you want to do that. Okay, now I feel like I'm crooked now. Okay, so we're all ready to sew. Regular straight stitch, baby lock, brother, stitch 1-03, or the default stitch on most machines. And let's get over to sewing. Here we go. Oh, so it'd be helpful if I had some thread. I changed my color of thread. Oh. Hit the wrong button. Oh, for crying out loud, where is the button? There it is. Couldn't see past the camera. Trying to keep my hands out of your way. I changed the color of the thread, 2 seconds before. My needle was down, so I didn't have any take-up lever there. Okay, so if you've got pivot, make sure you have your pivot on. I'm just going to come in, and I just got my regular J foot on. So J foot on the baby brother, A foot on the Janome. We don't need a 1/4 inch foot or anything, because we're going to stitch right on the line we drew. So I'm going to reach over to the left of my machine, and I'm going to put my needle down into where the line is. But I have that, my presser foot button is right by the camera. So we're just going to slowly sew around. Now I have my pivot on, which means that every time I take my foot off the gas, my needle goes down, my foot comes up. If you don't have that, just reach in. Generally, everybody's lever is right here, lever, lever. And you don't have to push it all the way up and slam it down. Just push it up a little, just so that the fabric can turn, but make sure your needle is down. Hey, Alberta. So, you ready to go? We're not going to lock the stitch, because when we come around, we're going to stitch over where we start and then lock the stitch. So there's no sense in having a whole bunch of locking stitches there. So if you just take your time and you're kind of turning the fabric, it almost like it knows it wants to go in a circle. Probably because this hand here is kind of going like I'm leaving my hand down and turning it just ever so slightly. And just try to stay on the lines the best you can. Line, not lines. Make sure you stop every once in a while, no matter what, and it just gives the fabric that chance to relax again. Now, if you have a mark on the center of your foot, some press-a-feet do, or up here even, then that mark, that center mark, is how you can follow along your line. And I'm just smoothing it out. And I'm coming back around where I already stitched. And I want to go over the stitching I have by about a good ½ inch or so. Try not to be to the left of the stitching because it'll show. So if you're not exact, stay to the right of the stitching. If you have to be one or the other, right's better. Okay, and then I'm just going to lock my stitch and head back to the work table. And get my scissors. You can use your rotary cutter. So you can see here, we went around in a circle. And I have to say that my stitching in the circle is a little neater than my drawing in the circle. And here's my little spot. Let's see if you can see it. Hold on. I have to take my glasses off. Let's see. Let me put my thumb right where I want you to look. All right. See how you can see I went a little inside. So if I went to the outside and then stopped, I'd have a little dimple there. Okay, and we're going to cut to about 1/8 of an inch, or a little less than 1/4, and I'll do a little bit so you can see. So see, there we go. Because it's a circle, if we left a bigger seam, we'd have to do the clip, clip, clip all around. You could use your pinking shears here as well. I bought a pinking rotary blade. I'll have to get it out. I haven't tested it out yet. So remember, follow your stitching line, not your drawn line, because my drawn line and my stitching line aren't exact. So I want to make sure I'm following along my stitching line. The nice thing about this is nobody's going to know if you drew exact, if you stitched exact. Nobody needs to ever know. Oh, shoot. Now, see, I did that. Now I've got to stop. So I'm going to stop right here. Hopefully you haven't trimmed up yet. And leave a piece like that, because I forgot to leave our opening. I'm so used to us not having to leave an opening that I forgot to leave one. I am sorry, my mistake. This will happen to you. So I'm going to put a needle, a pin here, and a pin here, because I'm just going to undo the stitches in between. But you see how I have that bigger piece there? That just helps me fold that back better to make the opening a little neater. See how I left that? See how the rest of it is? I knew that was too easy. I did that so that you'd know how to fix it if you did that by mistake. So, in goes the seam ripper. And with that pin there, I can't I can't get past that with the seam ripper. So now I'm going to go in the other direction. So let's see, who's stitching along the purses? Did I catch you before you did it? I think I'm right in the part where I locked it. Here we go. Now, I know now that we don't have locked stitches, and that's okay. So I want to have about, hey Rhonda, how's it going? Hi to Sewing Nancy too. Nope. You did like I did? Well, it's good practice for your purses. So I have way big enough opening. So that's about a little more than 2 inches. Now, if it concerns you, we could go back and just stitch a little and lock, stitch a little and lock, but we're going to live on the edge today. Because I know when you're home by yourself, this is my little pointer, when you're home by yourself, you'll probably go, yeah, I don't want to do that. So Cammie, see, you got ahead of me. Well, that's okay. You got to still open it up. But what you can do, Cammie, so what I could have done, and it would have been smarter to do, is if I did close that up, I could then fold this back along my stitching line, because I couldn't get past it, and then open it up. So either way, because we are working with a curve, so folding it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the part that has stitching and push that all the way back, and come over to this side. Ooh, I put some water in. I'm getting steamed. And push that back, and then just come along here. And this is probably exaggeratedly bigger. So let's do this. So I'm pushing back the seam allowance where the stitching is. And then I'm just kind of following along. So that I have that curve. Now this is going to be wavy, that's fine, because remember I told you if you did a bigger seam allowance, you'd have to cut it because of that waviness. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to trim back my batting to about where the stitching was. And I want to make sure, well, for Pete's sakes, I want to make sure that I hold my fabric down, like way down, out of the way. Here, let's do it from this side if we want to. And I'm just going to trim off that excess batting, because I don't want to have to fight with that when I turn this fabric. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my other fabric, and I'm going to match it up to the one I already ironed. And I'm just going to take my time. I don't care how much wrinkles I iron in to this part. I just want to make sure I have a smooth edge there, or as smooth as possible. We can smooth it up more when we turn it right side out, and then let's give it a good press. Okay? So let me move my iron for a second so I don't burn myself, melt my machine. Okay, so I need my point turner. And again, if you're concerned that you're unsewing here, you can go ahead and do your locking stitches. So I'm going to reach over to the other side. I'm making a note on my little instructions for the day I actually type them up about leaving that opening, because I didn't do it in my picture. I did it in the words, but I didn't do it in my picture. So we're just going to turn it right side out. Take your time. I'm going to use this end because I want a smoother end. So if you have that wooden point turner and it's pointy on one side and curved on the other, use the curved side. It's funny sometimes when you turn these things right side out and you think you've got it right side out, and it's really about 2 inches all the way around, not turned right side out. And you can see how I'm going around that edge. And that's right where the seam is. Here I come around this edge. And I'm trying to do it so the two fabrics line up together. Okay, so I should be able to now, because I pressed it, get it pretty close. And if I'm not close, I can finagle it a little bit. So I got this one right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a little press. And then I'll line this top one up with that. And if I don't have it perfect, oh, I got to watch there. You see how we do this little edge? Well, we can take that non-perfect part and put it out here, so all these edges will be nice and neat. Okay, so keep that in mind. Oh, Alberta, you like my point turner? This was made for me by someone with talent. Okay, so So get it as best you can. I was going to say it right there. Get it as best you can, because again, when we do these corners here, we can hide that in that corner, okay? So we want to make sure that when we turn it in either direction that we don't see the other side. Remember, this is just a little clip basket, not your prom dress. And I'm giving some steam. And I can see mine is jutting out a little more than it should. But because I initially did that, oh yeah, my birthday's coming up. Oh, happy birthday, Alberta. Oh, that was funny. You never know, Alberta, what you might get for your birthday. And when I iron, I'm pushing it out so that if one fabric is showing over the other, that should take care of it. Okay? So now I got to decide which side do I want where. And you know, I think you probably kind of see the inside more than the outside. So I'm going to make this my inside. So the first thing I want to do is I need to stitch all the way around, close to the edge, so that I'm going to be closing that opening up. Okay, and you can see mine's not perfect, but when I pinch it in, you're never gonna know. Well, you'll know, but you won't tell anybody. Okay, so we're gonna sew all the way around. Regular stitch, nothing special, nothing different. We just gotta sew close to the edge, excuse me, and take our time. I'm not going to start over where my opening is. I'm going to start somewhere else. And this time when I start, I'm going to do a stitch in place. Go all the way around, come as close as I can to that and stitch in place. I really don't want the overlapping stitching, but it's not that big a deal if you do. So, foot down. I'm double checking where my stitching is. Now, if you want to wait until I'm done mine, so I can show you how close it is, that and in case I make any more mistakes. So I'm going to lock my stitch. So if you have your J foot on, let's see if I can show you. You see my fabric is just a little right of that center line. Sounds like I need a new needle. Oh, almost fell off the page there. Now, if you don't have pivot, make sure you stop. Oh, I should back up a little. That's a little close, don't you think? There we go. I'm coming back up to where my stitching started, and I'm going to lock it. So here's my distance. Trying to do this so the light. There you go. See it there? That's my finger. So it's like an eighth. You just want to keep from falling off. So back to the work table. And of course, you know what I'm going to do. Press. Just double check where your opening is to make sure that you did close it. You caught both sides. I'm just trimming off the stitches because it's easier to do as you go along. Okay, we good so far? Let's see. Any questions? Get those out of the way. We good? So now we're going to do a little quilting, and I'm going to change to a 3.0 length. So if your machine was on 2.5, go to 3.0. And again, it's entirely up to you. I like to have my stitching a little bit longer because we're going through some thickness besides. If you're on a Janome, I think the Janome, if I remember correctly, starts out at 2.0 for stitching. So if that's the case, go to 2.5. But it's entirely up to you. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch across. Do I need to draw a line? No, it's okay. I'm going to stitch across in halves and then in between like we're cutting up a pizza. So let's go ahead and do that. If you want to draw a line, all right, I'll draw a line with you. Okay, I promise I'll draw a line with you if you don't exactly measure where the middle is. How's that? Because I mean, unless you really want it to be, then you'd have to kind of fold it in half, make a little crease, and measure. But we don't have to be all that exact. So this is basically, I scared myself for a minute. I thought I had a regular pen, which I practically don't own, so I'm not quite sure why I thought I did. Probably because it's blue. I think I have like one pen to my name. Well, that wasn't straight to the... Okay, so I drew that, and I realized I'm way up here instead of the middle. So because I have my iron away pen, look, I can start all over again. That's why I can do this easier with my eyeballs. Now, make sure that your fabric isn't still warm, or your pen isn't going to mark. Well, I'm off again. Well, that's all right. We're just going to get it relatively straight. I usually do it without marking it. And just, this is the time to just let it go. You know what I'm saying? Just let it go. Okay? So we're just we'll stitch across, turn, stitch across, turn, back, turn, whichever way. It's kind of back and forth. Okay? So here we go. I know after the first part, you guys are saying, yeah, well, I'll wait till you have yours done. So if you want to, you can change your foot. Oh, there I go again. Did I make you dizzy? Sorry. To your candle wicking foot, if you have it. Or this comes with your machine end foot. But you see how it's open in the middle, so you can see clearly if you're following your line. So I'm going to use my candle wicking foot. Because we did applique Thursday night, so I still had the foot handy. Okay, I'm going to start near where my line is that I came around the outside, And I'm going to do a locking stitch. These have to be locked. If you don't lock them, then I would come around again all the way around to lock those stitches in. But I'm going to go ahead and lock them. And I came in, I went a little right of my line because I could see my line was off center. Okay? So I'm not going to go back to the other end. I'm just going to turn and come around to the other half. So we're going to do the halves first. Oh. My machine was telling me I hit the wrong button. Lock it. Now you could go around in circles, you could do free motion, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the in-between. Remember, we're locking at each end. And then I'm just going to turn, find the next in between. And I think that's my last one. So that takes next to no time. Okay, so if I turn it over, I can see that I got every place. Okay? So back to the drawing board, back to the workspace. And the first thing I'm going to do, because it's easier now, is to trim off all those threads. And since I locked them, I can trim right down to the bone. Because they're all locked. I get everybody. You know, there'll always be some stray somewhere, holding out to the bitter end. Okay, and I'm going to give that a press. And see, my lines are still there, and my sewing didn't line up with my lines, but now my lines are gone and I'm fine. And I'm going to show you on this one, is I didn't end up right in the middle with all my crosses either. But if you don't tell, I won't tell. Okay, so we ready? Oh, Alberta, you use the candle wicking foot to stitch in the ditch? Why aren't you using your stitch in the ditch foot? That works better. Because it's got that little guide that'll go right in the groove of your seam. We'll have to talk, Alberta. Got to change your ways. Oh, I'm so tough. All right, so here's my opening. Trying to find my opening. Okay, I think it's here. So here's my opening. So have your opening facing up, but about so it'll be in the center. And what we're going to do is now you have to decide who's on the inside, who's on the outside. So this is going to be my inside because, like I said, I think I see the inside of my fabric more than I see the outside. So there's my part that I don't want anybody noticing. So I'm going to fold it in half. There's that spot. Okay. And if you want to, you can put a clip a clip away from the edge. And if you put the clips on, that just makes you make sure that you lined up both sides in here. Okay? So here's my bad spot, so to speak. Now, let's see how I can trace this so you can see. So we need our pen. Oh, I'm looking for my ruler. It's already here. And my ruler. And what we're going to do is I'm going to place my ruler. So here's my 1/2 inch on my ruler. Let me do it this way. Here's my 1/2 inch. So this first line is my 1/2 inch. I want to be aware where my 1 inch to 1 1/4 is. So I'm going to, let's see if I can hold this up for you. Well, let me make the mark first. So I'm going to go 1/2 inch. Yeah, can you see that? Pretty good. So here's my 1/2 inch mark. So my 1/2 inch is at the edge of my, it looks like a taco, at the edge of my taco. And then I want to turn it so that at the, we can go, I guess, 1 1/2. So that my 1 1/2 mark is just off the fabric. Okay? So here's my 1/2 inch. Is at the fold of my fabric. I'm just going to look down, and I should be, I'm going to say 1 1/4 inches. I'm going to go make it go 1 1/4 inches. So the 1 1/4 inch mark is just barely on the fabric. And we're going to draw a line. Okay? In essence, we're making a dart. Okay? I'm going to flip around to the other side, and I got to do the same thing, but I'm going in the other direction this time. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, okay? Turn my ruler. See how I'm turning my ruler away from the fabric? Got a little carried away there. I want my 1 1/4 inches at the edge of my fabric. Double check that I still got my 1/2 inch here, and draw a line. Can you see that? So they should both end in the same place. And if they don't, so mine doesn't. So I'm going to draw this line again, because can you see? My line ends here. Well, I guess it is the same. I thought it was different. But it's a little off. So see, my line ends on the other side, just a little above this. So I used the heat erase. Okay, so I can draw that again. And I want to double check that my fabrics are all lined up here. Get on there. There we go. Okay, so 1/2 inch to, and I just have, 1/2 inch, and I want to come down to my 1 1/4. So I want to make sure that that quarter is like at the very edge. So let's see if I got it right this time. So they're good, because this line really comes down like that. You good? So let me back us up a little. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go and sew that. So when we sew, we're coming here and going down. Now this side, we could come here and go down, but the chances are you want to be here and go down. So you really kind of want to be on the opposite side, if that makes it easier for you. So all we have to do is mark it again, and it all depends on you. Depends what you're comfortable with. So 1 1/4. And I can just quickly see that I'm the same on either side, okay? Because you're used to your fabric being to your left. And so that way, when you flip it and do the other one, your fabric is still to your left. Does that make sense? So let's sew these up. We're almost done. I'm going to go back to my 2.5 stitch length. So all I had to do was hit my reset button. I'm going to, all right, so you know that I don't like having a start at the edge of something that's thick. So I'm going to come into about here. I'm going to go ahead a stitch or two, and then I'm going to go back and then forward, okay? So if you watch mine, so I don't need to lock it there because when I go back and forth, it's going to automatically be the lock. So I'm just going to go a stitch or two. Now, if I want to, I can always turn this and come back to the edge. Because it's hard to see where you're backing up to. And I can just turn it back. And yes, I know now we have the fabric on the right side. I know that. And we're just, I like to cut that thread off rather than stitch over it. I wonder why I have little threads down in my machine. Okay. So you see what I did? I started about a skinny 1/2 inch in, did a couple of stitches. I can either back up and follow the line. If I can't see the front line, I'm just going to turn around, follow the line to the edge, turn it back around, and then finish up sewing. And we want to sew right to the edge. And then we're going to back up about 3 stitches. Okay, so can you see? I got to do it so there's light. Oh, wait a minute, let me turn the other light on. There you go. So I started about right here, did a stitch or two, turned around, went back to the edge, came back to this edge, and then backed up a couple for my locking stitches. Okay? Oh, I don't need that pin in the way. So I'm going to do the other side the exact same way. So I'm going to do a couple stitches. I can turn it around because I can see my line better. Stitch back, take my time. I don't want to fall off the edge. I just want to be at the edge. Turn it back around. And now follow my line all the way down. Okay, so my last stitch fell right off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my wheel backwards a little bit so I can get my stitch. I'm going to lift my foot up. And then so I want to be on my fabric. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you think you're going to go 1 stitch and the machine says it's going to go 2, and that's that. And then we just want to back up. About 3. And again, If you want to turn and do it, that's fine. You can do that as well. Okay, so let's go to the work table again. Take our clips off. The first thing I'm going to do is trim those threads. And the nice part this time is my thread's not hanging on the end. It's in further. So my thread's not hanging on the end. I find trimming threads at the very end it's hard to do. Or at least for me it is. There's always one little culprit that just doesn't want to play right. And I'm going to go ahead and just iron that. So first of all, ironing it takes away that line in case you didn't make it to the line. But see, we're starting to get our little busket going. Okay, is everybody okay? There's one side. There's the other side. We good? So now we're going to open this back up. And yes, it's a little harder to work with because we got these little darts here. But let's line our darts up together. And you can just fold them if you need to make your fabric flatter. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to line up our fabrics. Put a couple clips in. Okay, and yeah, I know we're bowing in the middle, but that's okay. We just want to make 4 corners. Is everybody good before I go any further? Let me just check. Oh, Alberta's saying her sewing friends, Pat and Julie, yell at her all the time. Yeah, you poor thing, Alberta. They yell at you with love, don't they? Okay, everybody good? Okay, so now we're going to mark. Oh, thanks, Precious. So now we're going to go ahead and mark the other 2 sides. So the same thing. Now this is a dart, and you'll find that if you go further, you'll be a smaller center and taller sides. So you could make this circle bigger, have longer darts and wider, which instead of the 1/2 inch, and you could have like this, it end up this size interior but higher sides on it. It's one of those things you kind of experiment with, because we can unsew. Okay, so again, 1/2 inch. See how I'm turning my ruler? And I want 1.25 inches. Isn't that what I said? 1.25 inches. And my quarter mark should be just about off the fabric. Okay, so remember, I'm going to sew this way. So I need to flip this side over. Okay? So 1.25, 1/2. Okay? And if you want to match them up, well, now I got to put them side by side because one's underneath the other. Okay, we're good. Remember, not the prom dress. Okay, so we're ready to sew. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. I'm going to come in and start about right here, do a couple stitches forward, and I'm going to turn it around. So see, when I turn around and sew back, I can see my line. If I'm backing up, I can't see my line. I'm just guessing where it is. Okay? So, couple stitches forward. Turn the fabric around. Head back in the other direction. Following my line. Turn around again. I'm going to get that beginning thread out. Following my dart line. I'm just barely on the edge. Now, if you want to, if it's easier for you to turn around to follow your line back, go ahead and do that. Okay. Oh, wrong button. Foot pedal. Okay, so I'll do it one more time. I'm starting about, not quite halfway, about right like there. And if you started halfway, that's okay too. Couple stitches. Turn around. One more. To the edge. So I'm at the edge, not at the very, very edge, but close enough that I couldn't take another stitch. Follow my stitching back down. Come to this edge. Turn around. Do a couple of stitches. Okay? All right, let's see. Lynn, I wish you would write a book with all these great tips. I learned. Oh, thank you, Lynn. I did. What did I do with my tip book? Remember I had a tip of the week? See? Lynn, you got to keep after me. The trouble, Lynn, if I stop and write it down, then I forget what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm going to trim my threads. But I got to get all these patterns done. And in the patterns, as I write the patterns, those tips will come up again. And then I can like put them in bold or make a little index at the end of the beginning of the book. I could do that, Lynn. So I'm trimming first because it's easier. Okay. And you know me, I have to put everything away. I've lost my rotary cutter. Oh, I already put it away. See that? So now, it was just me laughing. I got my cootie catcher going again. What was I making last time that I thought I had a cootie catcher? There we go. There we go again. So it kind of looks like this, and you're thinking, yeah, Lorene, I think you forgot something. No, it's not really. You just got to push this out. So I'm pushing out to the darts. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, but now we need to press. And I forgot to press my last darts, didn't I? See, Lynn, what happens? You ask me something, and I forget what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. All right, I got to move that away from here because I have this fear of that bumping against that. Okay. So I'm taking my fingers and just going out to these, to where the darts are. So I found the easiest way to do this is to just bend this in a little bit and just give it a good press. And then I go around to the other side because it's still hot down there. And again, it's going to, these sideboards, as they say in the old days, these sideboards, does anybody know what sideboards are? Not sideburns, sideboards. The depth or the height of the sideboards is going to depend on how long your dart is, not how deep it is. The deep is on that 1/2 inch side. The length of the dart depends on how your sideboards are going to be, how long your sideboards are going to be. And this is one of those projects that, experiment. If you don't like it, rip it out. If you don't like it a lot, throw it away. If you don't like it even more, give it to somebody. No, just kidding. So see how I've kind of pressed in the four sides. Sort of like scoring your paper. How's that? So let me get my iron out of the way. So that's it. Alberta, oh, so before I forget sideboards, because nobody answered. So having grown up on a farm, a hood milk cow farm, back in the old days, that when they were sometimes moving a cow or more moving things that went up higher than the sides of the pickup truck, they had these wooden slat things that fit in on each side, and those were sideboards. I know you needed to know that, right? So here we are. Alberta says, I never made anything like that. It'll be my first. Oh, thanks, Alberta. Well, Alberta, you know how to make darts. And see, because we did it from a circle is why we're getting this curve. So if you didn't want the curve, which why wouldn't you? You could make it from a square. But I think the curve kind of gives it a little more personality. And make a bunch of them. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, we did pretty good today. It's only been an hour. And I only made one mistake. Okay, so you want to make note. You've got your template. And I'm in the habit of, I write everything on my template. So I would write on here, dart, 1/2 inch wide, 1 1/4 long, or whatever you decide that you like it to be. I always write in pencil. I was telling you before, I only have one pen. I have all pencils. I say it's because I have commitment issues. I need to know I can erase. But write whatever you need to. Write it on your template so that when you pull this out, 2 or 3 months, 6 years from now, you'll remember what you did in your words that helps you to understand it. If you're really good, you'll take one of these and keep it with it. And you can probably, you could flatten it up and stick it in a, page protector. So there you go. A nice little gift. This is a nice little gift, even with the other part, this part with it. It's a nice gift. Let me see. I got another one here. This is a nice gift for anybody. They can put their earrings, rings. They can put, makeup brushes or pencils, whatever they want. It isn't just for somebody that sews. So put some of these on your list for things to do to have for gifts. But first, gift yourself. You have to gift yourself first. Okay, so let me just wait for a second. Excuse me. See if anybody has any questions. Cammie, did you get yours all done? Let me see. Purses, Cammie, you were both sewing along. I'll go ahead and take a picture of mine and put it up on the Facebook. Maybe I'll just make a post today. I wish we had a place to do it on YouTube, but because I know some people don't do Facebook. But anyways, thanks everybody for joining in. I hope you had fun with this project. Next Saturday is 1:30 because I have to work. The Saturday after that, which is Palm Saturday, there'll be no class. Persis is all done. I can hardly wait to see hers. I want to see everybody's. They're so fun I love all the fabrics. Okay, so next Saturday, 1:30. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Let's see, last Thursday, we made this. And I told you I'd quilt around the bird, so I did, and I put that up on Facebook too. And here's the other one. So we did a lot of stitching for the applique for anybody that wants to get a little knowledge of applique. Okay, so thanks again, everyone, for... Oh, Cammie's done too. Thanks again for joining in. Have a good rest of your weekend. I'll see you either Thursday night at 7 or Saturday at 1:30, and I will post on YouTube next week what the projects are. So thanks again, everybody, for joining in. Bye-bye.